All right, well, we have got to the end of the Gospels, which is a really, exciting step in our journey through the New Testament. We read for the fourth time about the resurrection of Jesus from the dead, which is the cornerstone of the faith that we have in Jesus, as Paul says it. And this account, John's Gospel, the account of the resurrection in John's Gospel, features, you probably would have noticed, a few different stories, which is exciting to read. So we get the same original account of a woman, Mary, who turns up at an empty tomb, and then after that, Jesus, the risen Lord, appears to her. She thinks he's a gardener, which I always think is a funny development. And then after that, he appears to the disciples. He appears to Thomas, especially, which is kind of the main resurrection story that we have in John's Gospel. And then we get John's summary. Here's why I wrote the Gospel. And then we get an epilogue afterward. Like I said, this is the cornerstone of our faith. Reading these accounts of people who have encountered the resurrected Jesus should breathe life into our spirit, renew our hope, and restore our confidence in the faith that we have. And it should help us to believe. I mean, that's the reason why John wrote these things, as he says at the end of chapter 20. Let's talk a little bit about Thomas, because that's probably that's the kind of key element of the story here. So the story goes that Jesus appears to the disciples. Thomas isn't present with them when he does that. Thomas, who is also known as Didymus, which means twin, because Thomas is probably a twin, he wasn't there when Jesus appeared to the disciples. And they tell him, "We've seen the Lord." And he says, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and if I put my finger in those nail marks, and I have to put my hand in the side where he was pierced with the spear, until I see those things, I will not believe." And it says a week later, they were in the house again, and Thomas is there with them this time. The doors were locked just like they were last time, and Jesus appeared, and he says, "Peace be with you," just as he did last time. And then he says to Thomas, "Put your finger here, see my hands, reach out your hands and put them in my side. Stop doubting and believe." And then Thomas does those things. It brings to mind that famous Renaissance painting. I don't know if you know it, but there's a painting of Thomas putting his hand in the side of the resurrected Jesus. It's famous because it's gory, but it's also a great painting. Thomas says, "My Lord and my God." And he believes. And then Jesus says to him, "Because you have seen me, you have believed." And then he says, "Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." And then John, because he's in that saying, he's talking about his readers, those who have not seen Jesus, who are the ones who are reading this gospel. Blessed are they who have not seen him and yet have believed. And then John goes on to tell you that this is a summary of this is why he wrote the gospel. Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written, he tells us, that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. So the journey that Thomas went on from doubting to belief, that's the journey that John wants all of his readers to take. That's why he's recorded these miracles. That's why he's recorded this resurrection account, so that we can go from doubting to belief. For Thomas, it required him to put his hands in the side of Jesus. But Jesus tells us that blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. And so I hope that this has been an encouragement for you to believe as well. Now, you might have noticed that after he kind of concludes his gospel, we get this other chapter 21, is the epilogue of John's Gospel. And in the epilogue, we get given a bit more information. So the disciples have gone fishing, and I think that fishing story is meant to be kind of symbolic of the fishing of men that the disciples are going to go and do. We see that Peter is reinstated to the place where Jesus put him. He's encouraged to be the one who feeds the sheep and takes care of the sheep. Jesus tells Peter that he will die a martyr's death with outstretched arms, and that he will die in a similar way to what Jesus had. died, which is true. We know history records that Peter died um, probably under the reign of Emperor Nero. And then we're told, then John kind of outs himself as the author of this gospel. And he says, Jesus did many other things as well. If every one of them were written down, I suppose that even a whole world would not have room for the books that would be written. So we're reminded, just as we finish the gospel, that Jesus has been powerfully at work in the world. He continues to be powerfully at work in the world. And when we start reading Acts tomorrow, the first sentence of Acts, which was written by Luke, the gospel writer Luke, he says, "In my former book, Theophilus, I wrote about all that Jesus began to do." And then the second book, the book of Acts that we're about to read, it's the book about what Jesus continues to do in the world. And if you look around in the world that you live in, Jesus is still powerfully at work. He is still doing amazing things in our world, and that's encouraging. Go and enjoy your day.